Well, I would say my top two priorities are restoring the lagoon and restoring the lagoon. It's very important to me. I grew up on the Delaware River, so I'm, a water rat for a long, long time. When I settled in Brevard County, I wanted to get a place on the water, which I did back in 1998. And as you know, it's very important to me. I've been chairman and vice chair of the Indian River Lagoon Council. I've traveled to Washington, D.C. and done a lot of things to promote the lagoon. But we also have other problems in the county. The road maintenance is a big deal. We didn't do enough roads. We should be repaving about 50 miles of roads a year. And during the downturn, that was cut back to about 8 to 12. And that didn't change until I was chairman a year ago. And everybody said, well, we can't do more roads unless we come up with more taxes. And gas tax was prime among those. And being a conservative and an anti-tax guy, I wasn't willing to concede that the only way we were going to fix roads was to come up with another tax. So I sat down with the county manager at the time, Stockton Witten, and said, we got to find some money here. So we did, and we restructured some loans, and we lowered our interest rate, and we lowered our payments, and we came up with extra cash, and we did 55 miles of roads when I was chairman. And this year we're going to do about 60 miles, so we're on the right track. What have I done for the lagoon? Well, as I said earlier, I've grown up on water. I'm a water guy, and I can remember back around 1989 or 90, sitting on my dock looking at the fairly pristine water and all the seagrasses and the dolphins and the manatees and the snook under my dock, and lots of fishermen in the mornings fishing around my dock. And I said, boy, I would hate to see the day when I would tell my grandkids, I can remember when. And I didn't even have grandkids at the time. But I do now, and they're 14, 19, and 20. And they see, they've been here since 2004, and they've seen the degradation of the river just in that short period of time. So it's very important to me. So when I was elected to the Brevard County Commission in November of 2014, the National Estuary Program was just in its infancy. In fact, it hadn't even been started yet. And I asked our chairman, Robin Fisher, at the time, to appoint me to that board. So he did. And so consequently, I was part and parcel of the whole beginnings of the Indian River Lagoon Council. And I played a major part in getting Dwayne DeFries hired as our director. And we had a lot of great candidates, but this guy was head and shoulders above any of them. And he's just a fireball. And I told him, you just let this guy go. He's like a racehorse. You let go of the reins, let him go. He'll run the race. And he's been a terrific choice. I've been vice chair of that board. I've been the chairman of that board. I've traveled to Washington, D.C. many times. I've had audiences with the Corps of Engineers. I've had an audience with Senator Nelson and Rubio and Congressman Posey many times. In fact, I got Rubio and Congressman Posey involved in a programmable permit. And we went to the EPA and said, listen, we need programmable permits. There'll be much more advantage. It will be a bigger advantage to us as we go forward dredging. So what will I do in the future? I'll keep doing what I'm doing. Do I support impact fees to fully compensate expenses in construction costs? In theory, yes. In actuality, I could never do that because, just for example, if it gets to be too expensive, you're going to have a hard time attracting good businesses. And I'm a prime example of that. When I bought my Mako franchise back in 1987, I attended the Mako School, Mako University up in Pennsylvania. And one of the other gentlemen that was in school with me at the time, he opened in Orlando. And I opened in August of '87, and he opened in January of '88. And he couldn't get open as quickly as I did because he had to jump through all the hoops in Orange County. He opened in Orlando. And one of the big hoops was he had to pay an environmental impact fee, which I think cost him somewhere in the $88,000 range. And had I had to come up with $88,000, I would never have been able to open up my Mako franchise in Brevard County. So Well, I understand people want them to be fully compensatory for their impact, but I maintain that if you don't have the business, you're not going to have the jobs and you're not going to get the taxes. So you're going to get taxes. In my case, we provided jobs for anywhere from 15 to 25 people depending on the time of year. And all those people were contributing members of the community, and they paid taxes and bought food and bought cars. And I paid a lot of property taxes in the 27 years that I was there. And I think I brought a lot to the community as well. And had I not been able to open, none of that would have happened. So there has to be a balance there. Indian River Lagoon tax funds should only be used for the recovery of the lagoon. When I was out at the town halls with Virginia Barker, our Director of Natural Resources, back in 2016, prior to the vote, we traveled the county. We had countless, from Titusville all the way down to Mims. We had countless town halls, and we explained to people what was involved. And we weren't advocating for it, we weren't advocating against it. I was very specific when I spoke to the people that would show up. This is your decision. All I ask is that you make an educated decision. Learn as much as you can about it, and that's what we're here for. We're here to educate you and answer your questions. The main question that we got, the number one question we always got from at least one person in every town hall was, how do we know if we vote for this, all the monies will only be used for restoring the Indian River Lagoon? Because we voted for so many things, and we've been told so many times that it was going to be used for this or it was going to be used for that. And then it wound up being hijacked in funds, a lot of funds, sometimes a little funds, but funds would be hijacked from that source and used elsewhere. And so I said, the promise is that it will only be used for Indian River Lagoon purposes. And that's why we have the Citizens Advisory Commission to do exactly that, to keep an eye on the spending.